Hello, everyone. We are back again with Theater Makers Interviews. I am Tyler McMahon, and my guest this week is Qiana McNary.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you for
Great.
having me.
Wonderful. So we will start at the beginning. What was your first theatrical experience?
Whew. I would say probably in middle school. I was in Tom Sawyer, and I got to be Aunt Polly.
Okay.
So that was my first introduction to what theater was all about, learning lines, having to sing songs, and work with, my other castmates.
And what was it about that experience that made you fall in love with performing?
Just being on stage, becoming a character. I think that is probably my favorite thing to do. And it was the first time that I wasn't Qiana on stage performing. It was an opportunity to create someone else that, others could see or relate to in some way.
Was there anything that first time before you actually went out on stage that scared you about going out there?
Oh, for sure. I mean, come on. I was, 10, 11 years old. Who wouldn't, be afraid to step out on stage, especially because I had a leading role. I was in several scenes. It wasn't just, singing in the ensemble and being able to be, covered with other people. I was exposed. So I think that those first moments were definitely something to be afraid of and get used to. But I will say, I think that's what carried me through the career now is that once I get out there, I'm out there and I'm on.
Mhm.
And I found there was comfort in being out there and performing. I think it was nice because I felt if I ever missed a line, nobody would know unless I, of course, made a face or it was something significant that became a train wreck for, my castmates if I missed the line that they needed. Um, but I think that was also my first introduction of really working hard to know everything I needed to know in order to support my castmates. So if I knew if I messed up, they would mess up. So I felt it was the first time being strong. But all of that to say, yes, terrified. My first time uh,
Right.
on stage in that capacity.
Is there anything from that first time going out there that still kind of stays with you after all these years?
Just the fact that I did it, it was an accomplishment. I think that that is what sticks with me. Once you do it once, it can carry you through the next shows, which is always great. And I know that at the end of every show, I feel good that I completed that show for that audience. And I think that's definitely something that sticks with me throughout each performance. I carry that. When I'm done with the show, I'm like, we did it, girl.
So, is there a role that has gotten away that you wish, I'm not going to ever have a chance to play that? Has there a role that's gotten away from you?
Hmm. Um, Not currently in my career. I think that everything is probably a learning tool because I think maybe there were some things that I didn't know at the time. So, for example, going through high school, I think performing in a lot of those musicals was cute and it was a good time. But I think if I had known now what I did then, I think it probably would have made the performance that much more spectacular. But right now, I don't think there's a role that has gotten away from me, I should say.
Okay. Is there a dream role that you haven't yet played?
Oh, of course, there's always dream roles that, you want. Um, I would love to be in Cinderella, being the fairy godmother. And there are roles that I would like to revisit, for example, on a more grander scale, like for a longer run. I think when I did Caroline or Change, it was one of the most exciting roles. But I just wish I could have performed it for weeks and weeks on end.
Right.
So I think those are things that I definitely wish for. I think there are some roles that I'm probably not even aware of yet that I would be good at. And so I'm trying to dig deeper. I feel like the quarantine has definitely put me in a place to study more
Hmm.
different roles that I think maybe I never thought of. So, those are definitely things. I mean, I would also like to move into more straight plays. Singing is great, but I want to tap into those emotive roles. Looking at Fences,
Right.
being the wife there. I really feel like that would be an amazing role to take on, but it would challenge me because she's not one-sided. She's definitely a dimensional character.
Right.
So I think those are things that I definitely look forward to once we're back performing.
What do you feel is your greatest accomplishment as an actress in your career so far?
Right now, being able to hold an equity card, I think that last year was a dream come true, unexpected. Someone spoke a good word about me, and I know that that's how this business works. It's a lot of referrals or people
Hmm.
recommending you for certain roles and making those introductions. And I feel like this was exactly that opportunity. So I think that has been the greatest accomplishment so far. I prayed for that for a long time and just was like, okay, well, if I get the opportunity, and how it came about was, like I said, totally unexpected because I got a call from Faye Butler asking me, and again, that's the biggest thing. Faye Butler called me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this lady has my phone number. I
Right.
couldn't even believe it. But asking me to try, and the thing about it too is traveling is the first time that I performed out of state. So definitely out of my comfort zone as far as being familiar with the area and the challenges that come with that. Being Black in Portland, Maine is not necessarily easy, but overcoming that, being able to perform a show that talks about heavy issues. I was in Ain't Misbehavin'. And
Hmm.
you know the songs, but it wasn't until working with Faye Butler that really opened up the door for understanding these songs. Like at the end of the show, there's a song called Black and Blue, and it's deep. It really relates to a lot of things that are happening right now with race
Right.
relations and injustices that are occurring, and just how the color of my skin, it makes people feel a certain way. It makes them make assumptions about me, and they don't know me. So again, that was just a very pivotal moment, and I think that has been the highlight of my entire career.
Now, speaking of you getting your equity card, before that happened and after it, I know other professional actors in the Chicagoland area, once before they got it and then once they got it, that had the fear that once they had it, that opportunity to do a more wide variety of shows, because with community theater there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
They were scared that that was going to disappear. Did you have that fear? Do you, I know it hasn't been that long that you've had it. Do you look at the future and think, oh, there's these places that I used to work with that are doing shows that, oh my God, I'd love to do. I don't have that opportunity anymore.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
I mean, I think that's a natural thought because I think you are always comfortable. And I hate to make the analogy, I was a big fish in a little pond with community theater, but I feel like, I got to know a lot. I just participated and I worked my way up in community
Hmm.
theater. When I say that, it's not because I stepped into community theater and was automatically getting big roles. I mean, I remember when I first moved to Chicago, getting roles, like I was in Young Frankenstein and I was ensemble. Like, please know that it wasn't that they saw me and were like, oh yes, you should be, the lead in this. Like, I didn't get that. So I,
Hmm.
and being a hard worker, I think is what allowed me to be that big fish in the community theater pond, and my talent. I won't deny that. But I think that it was time for me to make that change. And I became the small fish in a big pond with
Right.
becoming an equity actor. I pride myself in that a lot of the contracts that I've signed as an equity actor, I've done on my own. In a sense, I don't have an agent. Would love one. That's a dream, definitely, and on the bucket list of things that I need to check off in this career. But I don't have that yet. So
Right.
anything I've gotten with equity has been because somebody saw my talent and thought that I was definitely worth taking that, putting that opportunity in my hands and giving me that role. But it is a natural fear, I think, when you cross over. And I think that it's something difficult too in the Chicagoland area because personally, I think they do recycle a lot of the same people in a lot of those roles as opposed to giving new, actors and singers a chance. in the area. But I've been encouraged. Like I said, I have the opportunity. Prior to the pandemic hitting, I was going to a, and so I found a niche as far as going outside of Illinois in order to perform, and I'm okay with that. And I'll be glad to take that opportunity in order to build my resume until my name and face become recognizable within that theater. So I'm not afraid of it, but it is a concern in the back of my mind.
Now, do you feel that once you become an equity actor, I just said that backward, an equity actor, and you are first there, you first become one, do you feel that in those first few years you may have to, uh, let me say this the right way, you should be prepared to travel for shows? That if there's this opportunity, like you said, to go and do that, and you went to Maine, was that an easy choice? Was that a I've got to think about this, or was it a she asked me, I'm going sort of a thing?
Patient. Like I said, I was floored that she even had my phone number. So it was definitely, she asked me, it's like a hands down, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, because I feel like, when is a star going to call you ever
Mhm.
again in order to make your debut? So I knew that I had to make that decision. Was there hesitation? Yes, because at the time I had a full-time job, in a career that I'm passionate about, in a sense of I'm good at. But if you're making the comparison to singing, hands down, I would rather be on somebody's stage performing. No ifs, ands, buts about it. That also meant a change. Like, I mean, that changed my salary because I was going
Right.
from being a full-time worker, and to being a true singer actor. And that is a big difference. That would made me think about my household. Like, I have a whole mortgage, and it was like, can I really support myself, by diving into this career head on? This
Right.
prepared for. I went to school for this. Many people don't realize that I'm actually classically trained, which has been very helpful. So I started out in opera and classical music, but transitioned into musical theater and other things too. I mean, I sing. I have a whole band and sing other things too. I'm glad that I have a versatile voice. But yes, I mean, there was hesitation. I think that it just depends on where you fit in, because I also feel like everybody's story is different. For me, this is how I got on the path for equity, and I am prepared to travel. I will say that it has made me look for, well, now I have a remote job, so that's great, and that it
Mhm.
flexibility to kind of juggle both until I pick up steady acting, contracts, that will keep me going and sustain me financially. So that's something that was a change. I had to make that shift in my career, as far as, as we call our real jobs. So that was different. Um, but overall, yes, there was hesitation. I was hands down scared, like, oh my gosh, I'm about to put all of this on the line, to go sing and dance and act.
Right. So you mentioned that you went to school, you started with opera,
Mhm.
and you moved toward uh, musical theater, and that sort of into the spectrum. Do you feel that you learned the what you know now as an actress, and obviously that changes every day for performers. Every show we change a little more. But do you feel that most of what you use now as a performer, you are still using those things you learned in school, or things you've learned sort of quote unquote on the job?
It's both. I
Okay.
think that with my classical training, it's allowed me to be able to protect and preserve my voice, which I'm very grateful for. There are singing techniques that I can implement. So, for example, diving into Ain't Misbehavin, which was basically a Broadway production, in a sense of how many times a week we were performing. That's a big difference, than being in community theater. Usually, community theater, you get a weekend, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if it's a big time
Right.
or it's just those 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and maybe that's 3 shows. Whereas transition to Ain't Misbehavin, it's a Tuesday through Sunday commitment, and you flip and flop between matinees to an evening. So you just have to be prepared. And sometimes, of course, 2 shows on Saturday. So that's a
Mhm.
lot of heavy singing and dancing. And because of those techniques that I learned in my classical training, my voice wasn't tired. I could continue to perform. So I'm very grateful for that. However, being in this business, yes, there's some hands-on learning that happens when you step on stage, and that comes from things thrown at you like your choreography or where you have to enter. Of course, if there's a quick change, what do you do, if you have to be back on? So, for example, when I was in Sister Act, that required a lot from me because Deloris is on the stage pretty much the entire show. I think
Right.
there's 3 scenes that she is not, and several of those are quick changes. So it required me to learn how to not look hot on stage when I was, wearing 4 different outfits at the same time and just peeling them off as each scene changed, because that changes things for you. When you're hot, you start to lose momentum because all you can think about is, I probably look a mess under these hot lights and I'm sweating and, I'm taken away, when that's not at all what needs to happen. You need to stay focused. So again, that was
Right.
hands learning that I had to take into account once I became that particular character and got put in that situation.
Okay. What are your favorite attributes of a good director?
Mm. One that is familiar with the show. And by that, I mean they've taken the time to read the entire script and make notes. I think someone that cares about their actors and really gets them to pull things that are deep inside and make connections. So, for example, when I was in Crowns, um, I sometimes struggled with long monologues and being engaging throughout that. Because it was the first time that I had to remember pages of lines with no singing in between, or singing came like a later down the line. So it was difficult for me to memorize those lines with conviction or hit certain points or say it in the form of a character. I started becoming Qiana, and that wasn't at all what was asked of me. And I had a director that pulled me aside and was like, look, if you want to nail this, these are some things that you need to do, and gave me those tips and would practice with me. And I know that wasn't necessary. And I know that wasn't his job. Like, he did not have to babysit me in that regard. That wasn't
Mhm.
it. But he really saw, like, you are struggling with this particular piece. And I need to figure out how to get you over this so that you will be an asset to this show, as opposed to someone saying, she's an amateur. That was okay. So she learned her lines. So what? So I think that was really helpful. And then just overall a director that, will push you to your limits. So I think those are top things that I've taken from really great directors.
Okay. What are your biggest pet peeves about fellow actors and directors?
Whew. Okay, so actors, complaining. Suck it up. You signed up for this. This is what you wanted, whether it's community theater or it's a professional, equity show. You came into this. There are moments, depending on your role, that this is what you have to do. This is what the show calls for. So you have to be in that moment. Um, and maybe you don't like the lead. Maybe you don't like that they got it from nepotism, and it's their best friend that's directing. They're in this role for a reason, and you can't change it because you're not directing it. And if you feel inclined, maybe you should look into that. If that's what you really, if you want to be the person behind the casting table, figure out how to do that, and in order to give people an opportunity. But the complaining, it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't move us closer to the show date. I think what's something really annoying to me is excessive talking. When the director is talking, they're trying to give us some notes. They're trying to give us pointers. They're trying to make the show whole. So zip it so that we can all listen and figure out, whatever's going on. Um, as far as directors, I would say somebody that just isn't in touch, especially, understanding who I am. Like, I can't change that I am a Black woman. That's not going to change. So asking me to do something, for example, I've been in a couple of shows where race was a part of that, and turning a blind eye to that. That's the elephant in the room. Like, it's in the show. It happens. That's why you probably select me for this particular part, because the role called for this. So
Mhm.
ignoring that fact is difficult. Like, you can't do that. So address
Right.
it. I'm open to having an honest conversation and talking about that. Um, let's do it. So ignoring that sometimes can be annoying for directors, or if a director is asking me to do the impossible, like doing a cartwheel off a table, flipping, and then singing this long note. Please don't. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter who you ask to do that. That's not how voices work. Like, I need a breath. Asking me to, or asking me to, sing in a handstand, like, that's crazy. Like, don't.
Right.
Nobody can get good breath support, and if you can, that's because maybe you are in Cirque du Soleil. I don't know. I don't know. So things.
If a show is created about you, who would play you?
Mm, that is a good question. Ooh, I don't know. Who would play me?
Or who would you like to see play you?
That's a good question. I mean, I really don't know. I don't know who could embody me. I mean, I have my silly moments for sure, but very strong, and I have to stick a pin in that. That's a good question, Tyler.
I have an answer for you.
Who would you?
Who
Who
who I would, if I had to cast a musical version, the Qiana McNary story, Danielle Brooks,
Oh, good choice.
because she's very funny.
She is.
She can be very serious. She's got a very good voice. You know, that is one that I'm sitting there going, and you guys kind of look alike.
We do. We favor each other for sure. I
So,
think I mean, I follow her on Instagram, so for sure.
and
I'm
she'd look great in all purple.
for sure. You know it. Hands they don't look good in purple. They definitely can't be me.
So you kind of mentioned this a little bit. How do you approach learning your lines?
Good. So, fun fact, I have a photographic memory. So if I can look at a page and see the lines, like, I can see them visually in my head. However, I use different tools to learn faster. So I like Line Learner. And some people think that it's tedious because you have to speak your lines into it, but that's helpful to me because I get a run of saying my lines in that particular scene. And it's fun for me too because I pretend to be the other people and I say the lines however
Mhm.
funny I think I want them to be in order for me to remember them. So I use that tool. And plus, it's easy because I can put my headphones in and do other things and put it on repeat so it becomes mindless. Sometimes I like to sleep with it going and playing because I feel like unconsciously, if I'm sleeping with it, then I wake up and it's funny because I'm like, why do I know that line? It's because I heard it in my sleep several times. And then just hands down, good old fashioned practicing with a partner, especially if there's something I'm really struggling to remember, then I get somebody to say it back with me. We do it slow, we do it fast, and kind of go from there. As far as the music, that's quick because I
Yeah.
can listen to a song usually twice, and it's there. I might fix or make some nuances that make it Qiana-esque and
Mhm.
memorable, but for the most part, two times, and I think I got the song.
Now, when you say you have a photographic memory, are you thinking? Because I will say this, when I approach lines, I'm very much, I'm looking in the script all during rehearsal. When they say off book, I usually toss that script and I never pick it up again. I just not that way. But even in performance time, the page is like right here in my mind, sort of a thing, and I am the page scrolls. Is it that sort of thing?
So I can look at the page and I will see, like, I can remember how it looks on the page. And like you said, I can, in my mind, visually scroll. Like, I know where I am on that particular page and see it that way. In
Right.
my,
Okay. Do you have any pre-performance rituals before a show as an actress and as a singer when you perform with your band?
Oh, for sure. So I like personally the room to be quiet. And I know that, in some situations I'm sharing a dressing room. So I usually pop in my headphones and listen to some calming music. Something that's not show-esque. So something either jazzy and calming, or even the meditation music
Mm-hmm.
that you love at the spa that's relaxing. Um, I really do try to make sure. So I have a cute little personal teapot that I take with me. It's so nice and it heats up the water. So I have a good hot cup of tea. I try to arrive early. That's also a secret that I have in order to be prepared so that I don't ever feel rushed. Because anytime you feel rushed, I think that brings anxiety to the stage. So if call time is 2 and I can get into the building at 12:30, I'll more than likely be there dressed, if it calls me to either get into makeup. So I've had the experience of someone doing my makeup, or if it is me putting on my makeup, either way, want to be there early, want to make sure that all I have to do is just step into my costume and be ready for call time. So those are some rituals that I put into place in order to make sure that I have a good show.
Now you mentioned I had a question going right in my head as you said something, and just as you finished, it went right out of my head. It'll come back to me. Oh, that's what it was. Not necessarily pre-ritual things, but do you have anything before the show starts that kind of lets you know, oh, this is going to be a good show? Some people have that some sort of feeling. For example, I have an odd one. I always tell people, if before I make my first entrance before the show, if I have got a feeling in my body that I have got to pee, I can't tell you why. If I have just I have got to go to the, and I know I don't have time, if I get that feeling, it's always ends up being a really good show. And usually by the time I have to get off stage again, I no longer have to pee. I didn't go pee anywhere, but it's something in my body just goes, oh. So of course I have people who say, do you feel like you have to go to the bathroom before you make your first entrance? Do you have anything like that? Any sort of sign that pops up? I know that's an odd question, but.
Not, and I think that most actresses, singers can relate. Mine is not pee, but I feel like I have to poop.
Okay. Yes.
That is so disgusting and for us to share. But if I feel that way, then I'm like, oh, that means I'm ready. Like I am here. And like you said, I think it's totally mental, because by the end of it, it's not even I don't have to go to the bathroom. I don't have to do anything. But mine is that I feel my stomach gets very tight and I'm like, oh my gosh. But I also feel like that means that it's important to me.
Right.
It's important that I'm causing myself to feel like it's a tightness in my stomach. I won't say that I'm nervous, because I feel like I channel that into excitement, because like I said, I enjoy being on a stage, but that is the indicator. Yours, yes. If I have to go to the bathroom, true indicator of I'm ready.
Is there anywhere in the process, whether it's performance, rehearsal, audition, do you still get nervous at any point?
Surprisingly, my nerves may come in tech week.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is the moment that we've all been waiting for. And it proves I've learned everything that we were supposed to learn, whether it's the dancing, whether it's, how the staging goes, my entrances. I think that was sometimes difficult in some of the shows, because if I have to get off and make a whole run around the backstage to my next entrance, I think that's where I get nervous, because I want to hit that and show the director that I got it. But once it's opening night, I don't really have any of those jitters, because it's done. We're here. We have arrived at opening night. And from this point on, the show will be open. And there's nothing we can do unless, some disaster happens, where I've only been in one show where in the middle of it, a director came and changed something because it was affecting the show. There was an entrance that just affected it so much that it was never right the very first week that we opened. So we fixed it. And from that point on, it was fine. But other than that, for me and directors that I've experienced, once the show is open, it's open.
Right.
My nervousness probably comes during tech week.
Okay. If you had a magic wand that ended all of this pandemic stuff, what show would you like to start on rehearsals with right away?
Man, I would give anything to be back in Carolina or change. I'm telling you, if this ended and that was an opportunity, I'm there. I want to be Carolina again and revisit that role so incredibly bad. Like I want that.
Hmm. So, in your opinion, what makes a good play or a good musical?
Uh, for a good play, it's the lines. So if there are some lines that are hand down memorable and an audience member can walk away remembering something of it, they don't have to obviously be exact, but if they even paraphrase that you said this and it stuck with them, I feel like that makes an excellent play. As far as musicals, I think it's the music, of course, for obvious reasons. But if there's a song in there that people want to go home after they've heard you sing it and listen to it, download it, or whatever, I feel like that makes an impression. And there's just some music in musicals that just carry you away. Songs
Hmm.
that I'm left, speechless. Like that was a song right there.
Okay. If there was a novel or a movie, and I know how much you like TV, is there a novel, a movie, or a TV show that you wish someone would adapt into a stage musical, and why?
Course. Um, so my favorite, I'll go with a book. So my favorite book is Their Eyes Were Watching God. And I feel like there are some powerful and pivotal moments. And if it were done correctly, and that's the key thing, correctly, not something cheesy, because I feel like that could be done. And I feel like Their Eyes Were Watching God was turned into a TV special, which was
Right.
okay. But I'm more of an avid reader than anything else. And I think that I feel like it's on the bounds of The Color Purple. And I feel like it could really be a powerful story that could be told. And I feel like with the, amazing writers that are out there and lyricists, it could hands down be a very powerful musical that
Hmm.
could be adapted from that novel.
All right. What sort of stories inspire you as an actress?
Hmm. You know, some that touch home in real life or mirror a real life incident, whether it's something that happened directly to me or something that happened in history or over time. I feel like that is a connection, because I think that I can make that very real. Don't get me wrong, all fun fantasy like the Disney musicals and things like that are great, but the ones that touch me the most are real life stories. Like when I did Hairspray with you, I think that was serious because it was something that actually happened to people. And I always do a deep dive whenever I'm in a show like that because I read stories about it. So it took me back to reading stories about the civil rights and what that took, and not the main stories. I think that that's also a misconception. I don't read just the fluff of Martin Luther King. Like that's great. He was a great man. But I dive deep to the unknown people. I like to
Hmm.
read of people that aren't always highlighted in history, but have a story to share of something similar. So I think that, with Hairspray, that was my moment to read those particular stories, about these very incidents that were happening.
Okay. Now, you have, for the most part, and correct me if I'm wrong, you, for the most part, have played the more, we'll say, heroic characters in musicals. But you've also played villains like Ursula.
Hmm.
What do you prefer, and which is for you more fun to do?
I would definitely say it's much more fun to be the villain, only because I think that's unexpected. People are always like, "Oh, you're so nice. You're so sweet. You're such a sweet girl." That's what I get all the time, and I think it was an opportunity, especially when I played Ursula, um, to step on stage and be evil. And not, I didn't want to be the typical evil of, okay, we all know Ursula is a bad, bad person, but to be evil in a sense of being cunning, and to be a little sexy. She, as much as, you know, we dismiss that about Ursula, it's true. She thinks she is the bee's knees, honey. And nobody can take that away from her. So it's things like that, adding nuances that set her apart. So when people, again, make a memorable impression on them, that when they walk away, I was happy that people were talking about Ursula more than Ariel, because I left an indelible mark that Ursula was that evil that she got to be. So I think, you know, I think those are much more appealing roles to be the villain, because it does take a lot more, it's a lot more work to be a villain than necessarily a hero, because the nice person is always there. That people connect with that immediately.
Right. That is one thing I've always said for years, that Disney always gets right. They know how to write good villains.
Ooh.
Just, they usually give them great songs, and they just know how to write good villains.
They do.
Has there been any big onstage flubs, sort of things that you remember, that maybe at the time weren't funny, but now you can look back and kind of smile and laugh on? I cannot believe that happened.
Oh, for sure. I sang the wrong words in a song the entire song. I think I probably flipped the first, second, third verse. I don't know where we were, but I sang that song like my life depended on words wrong and all. And when I got off stage, I was mortified, because it was definitely a well-known song, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't something that I could cover up, or just wrong. And at the moment, I was definitely, like, when I walked off stage, I was in tears, because it was like, how could you do this? And as I look back, I laugh, because it was, I mean, if you want to, if I could have won a rap battle for rhyming words at that time, making things rhyme and sound like they were, I would have won hands down. But it was wrong as two left shoes. And then another embarrassing moment, I got laryngitis performing in Hairspray, and there's a whole line about that. My big break, and I get laryngitis, and I definitely laryngitis performing in Hairspray, and I was just like, So I'm not saying, I was just, all I could do was try.
Yeah.
And I ran out the back door, ran to my car, because I was like, I don't want anybody to talk to me after this terrible performance. But those are real things that happen. As much as we try to be perfect, I'm guilty of it too. And I know people probably don't think that, because people feel I'm larger than life when I come into a room and I'm with people. But it happens. It has happened to me. Now, I work very hard to make sure that it doesn't, but it has happened.
So I have to ask then, at what point in that song did you realize?
Oh, the first word, like when I sang the first, and I know that I probably kept a good face for the audience, but in my mind, my face was like, girl, what are you doing? This is not at all, like, hands down, first wrong word, and it just kept tumbling. It was a train wreck. And I just was like, well.
Yeah, I did that with a show, and I couldn't remember what the first word of the song was. I could tell you what the second, third, fourth, everything else. And I just sat there going, I have no idea. And I'm walking with the person, and as they had to turn to sit down, and as they turned, she just went, when? And I started singing, because she knew I was blanking on the first word for some reason, and she just went, when? And they were vamping.
And that is why it is always good for you to be nice to everyone in a show, because you never know who is going to save you when you are out there. And like I said, unfortunately the song was fast, and I just couldn't recover in that particular instance. But I think, like you said, now that I think about it, I think that's exactly, I couldn't remember what I was supposed to, and the first thing that came out, and it was just wrong after that. Just
3 songs later, as we walked up the stairs and she had to turn around, she almost fell backward, and I grabbed her, and she said something backstage, and I said, well, you saved me, I saved you.
Absolutely.
It was just all happened on that one show. It was very funny. What do you think are some of the most important lessons that specifically theater teaches us?
Theater teaches us how to bend. And I think that in most life situations, that's what you have to do. Um, you have to learn how to navigate difficult situations and figure out a solution. And by that, I mean in theater, you're given a script and you have to figure out how to make this character come alive. There's a lot of bending that occurs because as much as you think it's what you would do, that not might not be conducive to the stage. So you have to figure out a workaround in order to get the result that you want. And I think that theater has definitely taught me that, and it's helped me to apply that in real life. um, I work in HR, so there's a lot of bending that happens there because everyone's situation, again, is not just one solution. People come and have real work issues, and you have to figure out the legal but right way that will satisfy that particular person in order to make their work experience either better or make a change for them. And I think that theater definitely requires that. The show must go. What we just talked about. I sang all these wrong words, but that didn't deviate from the rest of the show. And this was at the top of the show, so I still had a whole show to finish, and I had to
Yeah.
figure out a solution to make up for this terrible mistake in the beginning that would still allow us to finish this particular show that day and still go out with a bang. So again, I had to bend and figure
Yeah.
out what to do.
Is there anything within the theater world that you wish you were better at?
Of course. I wish I were a better dancer. I know I can move and I've taken taps, so I can do them. And whenever somebody gives me a dance to do, I can mirror or imitate that. But just being a dancer in my mind, I'm excellent. I am the top of the world. But on stage, it's like how they show those actual versus
Yes.
what you have in your mind. That's me. In my mind, I know I'm killing it out there, but probably looking just mediocre. So I wish, and as a result, I do take dance classes. I mean, I haven't since the pandemic. Obviously, I can't do that, but just honing my skills online. So I've been tapping in my basement, um, to YouTube videos, just so I can continue to exercise those skills and try to get better. But that's one area. I wish I were a better dancer.
Okay. Um, so these are a couple of submitted questions, particularly dealing with topics happening in our world today.
Hmm.
What can allies for people of color do to be better within community theater?
Challenge directors. You have a voice. Speak up. When it comes to casting and you see that they're doing something that's totally inappropriate, if you're casting a show, talk about it. Say, like, I'm uncomfortable that you did that. And that is not helping the show. Being passive and just saying, well, I didn't cast it, so, whatever. It's not affecting me. It is affecting you because it's affecting your fellow castmate. Um, or lack thereof. So use your voice. You have a right to. They can't do a show if everybody says they're not going to do it. There's
Right.
nothing there. So if we all band together and say, I'm not going to continue until you make that change, they're forcing their hand to make the change.
Have you ever personally experienced any sort of discrimination based on the color of your skin within the theater world, and how did you overcome and or address it?
Oh, for sure. Um, it's happened with auditions. And I will say I have, a double stigma because I am a very curvaceous Black woman. And I think that the first look at me is, oh God, costuming, or oh God, her skin is so brown. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. So I've experienced that. I've experienced that in dressing, um, in makeup. That has been always something very difficult. Um, and I feel like it's a disservice to people of color when you sit in the chair and you look like, I don't know what, you look like somebody's monster because they put things on you. You look ashen because they don't have the right shades of color for you. And that definitely is difficult. So it requires you to bring your own makeup. And I feel like that's not fair because I look, in a big production that I did where everyone else was getting their makeup done and sitting in the chair being pampered. And here I am having to do my own makeup because they don't have any of the colors that fit my
Right.
skin. That's terrible. Or, like I said, just the thought of not being cast because I have, darker skin, or I don't fit the role, or, I challenge the status quo by auditioning for roles that are traditionally not weren't made for Black people, hands down. There's no other workaround to say that. So I always audition for those, and then, I had a situation where I heard outright from the director I wasn't chosen because my skin was too dark. And it's just like, of course I don't think it was meant for me to hear that, but I heard it nonetheless. And it's one of those where I was like, wow. So pushing back, I mean, I speak up. I'm very outspoken, and I have no problem challenging anybody that happens to. I will say I haven't had that happen as often directly to me.
Mhm.
Like I said, that was one instance where I actually heard it. And at first it was devastating, but other than that, I really haven't experienced much of that. But I recognize that it occurs. And when it does, I'm right there on the front lines to say, hey, this isn't right.
Okay. So, do you desire to be known for what you do or who you are?
Hmm. I'd rather be known for who I am. What I do is the cherry on top. And those are my giftings. But I would rather someone say that Qiana is dependable, that I can trust her, that, she'll come through for me, anything like that, because that's who I am on a day-to-day basis, than, what I do. That's nice. But if all of that were to fade away, I would want somebody to walk away knowing who I am was much more impressionable to them than anything else.
Is there a show that you have done that you would love the chance to revisit, but do it in a different way?
Hmm. For sure. I think that a show that I would want to revisit definitely would be, try to run through my whole resume. So um, when I did Tom Sawyer, even though that was middle school, I feel like I would want to do it differently. Um, because I think that there could be some nuances, whether it's a choice in, now I will say it was a very diverse cast, even in that young age, being 11. I was Aunt Polly, obviously Black. Tom Sawyer was white, but my other niece and nephew, one was white, one was Black. So I mean, we took it to that level, and I feel like I would want to take that same casting and do it as adults, because I think that was cute for us being so young and giving everybody a chance. And I love that mentality. So I would want to take that same thought and bring it to today, where I can see adults. I think everybody loves the Cinderella with Whitney Houston and Brandy, but I feel like that was a pivotal moment where it was a public musical that was true colorblind casting. Like, people always ask,
Right.
what's it look like? And I feel like if we could be in that mindset to do shows again like that, if I could revisit that show again, or I was in Little Mary Sunshine, and I feel like, once again, that is not, if I could put a beautiful, Black girl in as the lead in Little Mary, or a beautiful Asian, girl in that, I feel like that would open the world to see that we're not refined to just roles, that whenever we have a show like Hairspray or Ragtime or anything, like, we don't have to do that. We can be in anything.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see Mamma Mia done with a person of color cast. I would want to see that. And I feel like, why can't we? There's nothing in there that says it has to be an all white cast, but that's the trend. I would love to see Legally Blonde interchange their characters, or anything like that. Like, why not? There's no reason why.
If you ever get a chance, look up the Broadway Easter bonnet competition. I think it was the Easter bonnet competition. I believe the cast of The Lion King did a parody called Legally Black. And they took the Legally Blonde music and they rewrote it, and they did this all with a Black cast. Any of those skits that they do, watch all of them. They're very, very funny. So we're going to end with this questionnaire. It is a sort of adaptation of the questionnaire created by Bernard Pivot. What is your favorite musical?
My favorite musical, I would say The Wiz. Like I sing all the songs all day long, both the musical stage version and the movie. Like hands down, sing them all.
Uh, it is my absolute, has been my, it's what made me love musical theater. It really is. It's my
Yes.
favorite musical. I don't care for the movie all that much.
I mean,
Uh,
I love
Elements of it I love.
Michael Jackson. I can't help it.
Yes.
Can't help it. So the
Not
movie,
a fan of Diana Ross in it, but everybody else
yeah, Ted Ross.
love.
Oh my gosh, Nipsey Russell. Like I
Mhm.
feel like ahead of their time. I
Yeah.
agree with you. I mean, I am proud of Diana for stretching herself in
Mhm.
that. No, I wish that the politics behind the movie with Barry Gordy and his money, his funds
Yeah.
being I wish Stephanie Mills could
Yeah.
have done the Dorothy for that. That's why I said the on stage, whew, I've seen Stephanie Mills and I'm just like she brings me to tears. And I don't know what it is, but I can't help it. Like I think I get so excited that I cry watching this on stage because The Wiz is just where it's at for me.
Oh, I had I had a rehearsal the night that the live production on NBC went on, and so I watched it when I got home, and I cried after the first three words came out of her mouth because I was like, it's a full circle for her.
Oh, she still got it. Oh,
So yeah, it's one of my favorite. Not one of my. It is my favorite musical. What is your least favorite musical?
mm. Least favorite. Ugh, honestly, and I know people are gonna kill me, but Rent. I think that it's just I don't care for it. I don't care
Okay.
to listen to it. They have a few songs, of course, that are stellar, but I'm just like, take it or leave it. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Meh.
I don't think there's anything. I know I've had people that are just like people are gonna hate. I'm like, no. I mean, I I can't stand Phantom of the Opera, and there's so many people that love it. I'm just like,
Yeah,
I don't like it,
like meh. mm,
you know. But then again, people think it's weird that this, you know, fat gay white boy loves The Wiz. So I mean,
Like, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I stand by it, but like when everybody's like, oh, I just Rent is it from oh, I just if I could,
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
What is your favorite play?
Fences.
Okay. Do you have a least favorite play?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
I think I look at plays a little differently because it takes so much work. Not to downplay musicals at all, but I feel like a lot of things can be covered with singing.
Hmm.
I think that I've seen a lot of great musical actress singers, actresses singers that their acting probably was piss poor, but because they could sing, they got the rave reviews. Whereas I feel like you're in a play, you're completely exposed. Um, it really depends on how much homework you've done to dive deep into that role, or if you just have the acting chops. Um, so unfortunately, there's not one that I like the least. I
Okay.
think I look at them through a different lens.
Yeah. The play one is a hard one, I think, for some people to answer the least favorite one because there's so many.
Yeah, and I feel
No.
like it also has to do with who you saw in the
Yeah.
play. So I can't, like I said, I don't have one off the top of my head that I was like, oh, I never want to see that again because I think it depends on who was in that role. And if I've seen some bad, I don't know, I feel like it was just more bad acting
Yeah.
than a bad play.
What is your favorite word?
Oh, awesome. I think
What
that's
is your least favorite word?
stupid.
The change on your face when you just said that was priceless.
I mean,
Because you went just from a smile and just so quick.
because I think people to use the word stupid and or calling someone stupid. I don't like that. And I
Okay.
just that's not it.
What sound or noise do you love?
Mm, sound that I love. Only a cello. I don't know why that is. But I think that is just the most emotive sound that I can get.
All right. What sound or noise do you hate?
Farts.
Farts?
Hate it.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that's what you said.
Say it.
So what profession, and we're going to count being an actress in this, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I always wanted to be a doctor. I'm a doctor in my mind. So I think that if I could go into that profession, I would be satisfied. I'm so fascinated.
Is you're a doctor in your mind, is that the same way that you said, like, you're a dancer in your mind and you're really not being a doctor very well?
I could probably perform surgery. I went to YouTube University, and yeah, I could do it. I'm confident. Like, if you have something wrong, I could help fix it. Mhm.
I feel the same way about being a food critic from watching so much Gordon Ramsay.
Exactly.
What profession would you not like to attempt?
Probably plumbing. I would tear your whole pipes and toilet up. No. Mm-mm.
And our final question, if an afterlife exists, what would you like to hear when you get to that place?
Welcome, my child. You've done it. Welcome.
All right. Thank you very much for joining me this week. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back again next week with another episode. Everybody stay safe out there.
Have a good one, everyone.